Okay, Ken, are we ready? Sorry, folks.
Everybody's wondering where you were.
Yeah, sorry. Microphone issues. Technology's great when it works. So we are live, Ken? Are we live? Okay, great. So today's garden class is on the new flowers. This is kind of like Christmas for gardeners. Every day, new trucks of stuff come in, and it's like the new flowers, a new foliage color, just new. Or they're reintroducing old-fashioned things back. And so today's just those new things. So this is a flower I saw come off the truck yesterday afternoon. It's one of the most exciting things I've seen in a long time. It's a marigold. Most common thing you've ever seen. New genetics. It's got a bigger flower, and it's red with the traditional morning or marigold. Oh, my staff hates it when I teach. With a traditional, can you see that on the back? This is marigold color, but then it's red. And marigolds are great in that they love sun. You can abuse them. They don't really get animals eating on them. Aphids, leave them alone. They repel bugs, in fact. Frequently, they'll put these into tomato gardens or your vegetable gardens because it attracts pollinators, bees and butterflies, and repels negative things like your aphids, thrips, psyllids, all those nasty things that eat on your vegetables. So this is just something new, and I've sold probably at this point in my life millions of flowers, literally. But still, this comes off the truck, and my heart still goes, that is so cool. I can't believe that. Can you take a close look? Thanks for being so patient for us. Yeah. So anyway, that's today's class, new flowers. And I've kind of broken it up into shade things. I've broken it. This is for you. There you go. All right. Shade things. I've got full sun things. And then a few shrub, just because shrubs are sort of like big perennials that hold their foliage. I brought just a few, not many. And there's no way I'll go through all these. There's just too many. But I'll tease you into now's the time to plant these, to have color. And then the handout I have for you today, it's only because so many customers have been coming in saying the deer are eating my garden. The deer are a problem. The deer, the deer, the deer. Today it's like every other customer, deer. So I printed out the list of plants that deer don't eat. And it's mainly flowers. And so, and most of the deer do actually read the list. Not all of them, most of them are pretty good at reading this. So it might help guide you into having less mistakes, less things eaten. And so I'll email, it's a 2-page thing. I'll email that to you. It'll be a PDF, so you can open it up on any device, a phone, an iPad, desktop, whatever. And then you can print this out or just read it and go, that's a stupid list. You can hit delete if you want, either way. So with that, put your email down. Now, this gets kind of weird. I'll start here. You kind of pass it that way. How about that? If you're already part of our garden club, there's like over 10,000 of you. There's like, and it's growing. If you're already on our news, our Garden Care Club newsletter, I write a weekly garden column, then we do a weekly video. So video blog and an actual gardening column that goes in the Courier, Prescott E-News, it goes out. And that goes directly to you, and you get the unedited version. Sometimes editors don't like the detail. I embed links where to buy them, where to see more, how to see a video on this. It's embedded with a lot of stuff. Well, some of our newspapers are very old school, like they're still two-dimensional, black and white on paper, which is fun. I like to smell the paper. I like to feel it. But sometimes you want to click in and get more. So that's emailed directly from my desktop to yours. That's what goes out, the unedited version. Sometimes they take out, I had them a month and a half ago. They took the name of the photo that I sent them in with this week's photo. They renamed it. They just put the wrong, they didn't change out. They had last week's, it wasn't even close to right. Wrong name of the photo for the plant. That's not a crab apple. What are you talking about? So that wasn't for me. That was editing kind of goes, oh, let's mess with the gardeners today, see if they figure this out. So anyway, yeah, well, they do pretty good. I mean, it's local, yokel, Prescott News stuff, so it's just us. So we can't be, anyway, I won't go there. Sometimes I wonder, we have a very high standard here at Waters Garden Center. We got a whole team of people that put a lot of energy into the content, the photos, the videos, and then to see them kind of not do it right, it kind of hurts me. So anyway, if you're part of that list, you'll want to put your email. This is only going to you all right here. It's not going to everyone, just to you all. You folks online, I know you're there. Thank you for being tuned in. We're not going to ignore you. So yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, that's got to be weird. Anyway, you'll see a link inside the chat box. You can open the link up for there, so you see the same thing. Okay, let us start. Let me tell you who I am. My name's Ken, and I'm the owner of the garden center. And so my family started Waters Garden Center way back in the 60s. So Harold Waters, actually just in yesterday, very exciting. Here's the latest news, and you're the first ones to know other than my staff. So Waters Garden Center in Little Prescott, Arizona, has just made the top horticultural company to work for in the country because of just all the stuff we do for our staff, our team, community. And so we had a professional photographer come in last night because we're going to be at the front of the Garden Center magazine, May. The deadline is Sunday. We're going to be the front page, the whole crew. And so they hired a professional photographer and went, this is a rare opportunity. Called Harold and said, will you come to the nursery? He's 84, 85, I forget. He's so old, I've forgotten how old he is. He's that old. He said, sure, I'll come on down. That'd be great. He and Lorna both came down. We had them in the middle, all the staff around him. It's magical. I can't wait to see. You'll hear more about that just because it's a proud moment for Prescott, for Waters, and for our family. Anyway, that's who I am. My wife works here today. I've got 4 of my kids working here. Megan McKenzie, twin daughters. If someone back here is helping you, real pretty tall gal, you go down and check out, and there's another gal that looks just like her. Well, they're just sisters. My oldest daughter's working here, Kate, and her husband, Jeremy. There's all of us. And we've got some dogs around someplace. My passion is not children dogs. I meant my real dogs. Sorry. That came out wrong. I saw Chuck and I went, I did something wrong. So when I get tired, I do like the taste of my feet. Kind of, they just go in and I say the wrong things. Anyway, I'm a flower grower. I love flowers. That's my thing. That's my kryptonite. I just love flowers. That's my week. I just love growing flowers. So we've got lots and lots of pots. We have over 50 containers in the front yard and backyards filled with flowers, trees, shrubs, all kinds of stuff. And then my backyard, I live up in Eagle Ridge. It's a north slope overlooking the Dells. It's a pretty vista. The hardest gardening I've ever done. North slope, clay soil. It is rough. And so I killed off a lot of stuff trying to figure out how to garden. Finally, I abandoned the whole idea. And I went with raised beds. So I put retaining block at the low end and just backfilled. So you see these different layers of retaining block with different gardens. And so now it's very, very pretty. In fact, it's now starting to mature and feel like it's a garden. It's been there for a while. And so flowers are my thing. I'm always adding more flowers. And so why don't I go down the list, and I'll start with maybe shade flowers. There's actually a surprising number of shade gardens here, especially if your house is over, let's say 5 years old. You put the trees in, they mature, all of a sudden you've got some real shady areas. Or these beautiful vistas like our north side of our house, great for entertaining in the summer. It's got a story and a half. It's got a classic built-in. You drive in the driveway, upper living, then you go down the stairs to the downstairs basement stuff, and then go outside, go down. It's a classic hill. It's great, cuts the wind, it's shaded, it just feels good. But it's really dark shade back there because this big structure, now the trees are filling, there's a lot of shade. There's more shade than you would think. And my definition of shade is going to be 6 hours. That's a demarcation line. If it's under 6 hours of sun, that's considered a shade garden. If it's over 6 hours at this altitude, that's full sun. So we're just intense, the sun that we have. Now the flowers I'm going to show you at the moment, these plants probably won't like to be in your garden out in June between the hours of 10 and 2. it's just really hot. It's 92 degrees, 10% humidity. There's a prevailing southwest wind. That's hard on shade-loving plants. So probably in the morning, great sun. Evening, into the day, the sunlight is at such a low horizon that it's pretty kind. Even though it's warm, it's a pretty kind sun. These plants will do just fine. And I'll start with this guy right here, just because most people don't realize we can grow these here. This is azalea. Azaleas, rhododendrons, camellias, what else? Hollies. These are all things that grow really well here as long as you put them in the right place. This says on the national tag, will grow in full sun, be beautiful, bloom like this for months and months. That is not true, not at this altitude where it's this dry. So here it does better in that more shaded areas. This is a small, you got to be careful with your azaleas. Not all of them are hardy, cold hardy for here. So you want to, some will die out in the winter. This one's very cold hardy, goes down to like minus 20 degrees. We'll never have a cold winter like that would kill this. And so this one will consistently come back and it just blooms like this for about 6 weeks. And then it's just a beautiful glossy green shrub up to about, you can keep them pretty easily like this. Naturally to about hip high or so, if it's in an outside garden bed or something. But azaleas do really, really well here. In the shade. A companion to that, this one's super unusual. Yeah, they are evergreen, yeah. We'll sell both types, evergreen and deciduous. They both grow here. As long as you're getting the hardier, got to watch what zone they're in. So, yeah. This is Weigelia. It's kind of an unusual plant. This is deciduous. Loses its leaves in the winter. But you can count on it to have this kind of dark burgundy foliage. And then it's just starting to open up with these burgundy flowers. And so the contrast between the foliage and the flowers is really just outstanding. Likes the shade. I notice also hummingbirds in the morning are all over this shrub. They're always visiting this particular plant. Grows up about 3 by 3, hip high or so, kind of ball shaped. So just a great little plant. This will grow in container, in the ground, as long as it's in the shade. That's a secret, okay? One that I've had good luck with, kind of one of my favorite perennials. Now perennials, there's deciduous shrubs. They keep their structure, but lose their foliage. Then you've got perennials. These actually will hibernate underground. Kind of just stay in the winter, down there, rest, regain their energy, and they come back fresh every spring. That's a true perennial. Comes back to the same root, hibernates underground, comes back. Daylilies. There's a whole bunch of things like that. This is heuchera, or coral bells is what your grandparents called it. It'll actually put this coral bell kind of flower. Sometimes it has a curve to it. Literally, this will have hundreds of coral bell flowers on it. But really, you're not planting this for the flower. You're planting this for the foliage. This comes in chocolate, comes in black, comes in lime green, classic green, this coppery, comes into all kinds of foliage color. It's just a fun plant. And it's so tough. I like to plant these at the base of my trees where the trip emitter is. This will take the same water cycle as your trees, like once a week watering. It's so drought hardy that it will just take that water, water this, water your trees, and it'll fill out, just be this underplanting underneath your trees. So your trees don't look like, it looks funny to have rocks going right up to the trunk. It looks sterile, but have something that kind of naturally grows with an underplanting, like the tree grew up through this garden. It feels more natural. And this is one of those companion plants that goes with, that'll have that same water cycle that a tree would have. Not many perennials will do that. Usually they need a little bit more water than a tree does. So I do that a lot with this. I've actually grown this in a big square pot, about this tall. It's been in there for years. It is now solid, just solid coral bells. And then it'll have hundreds and hundreds of flowers on it. It's spectacular when the sun sets. It's spectacular. But have fun with the foliage. This will take some sun, takes quite a bit of sun, a little bit more water if you're doing that. In the shade, it's just bulletproof. You can almost neglect it. It still grows. Great heuchera is the name of that. This one and this one, let's go blood good. Yeah, these are two lime. I was trying to bring lime green. Sometimes that shaded gardens, they're so dark that you need some lighter color. That gold, bright colors, they almost glow in those darker gardens. So I like to use these types of plants. This is a golden blood good Japanese bloodgrass. This is golden Japanese bloodgrass. Say that 10 times. I've been unloading trucks and running since like 8 this morning, since 7:30. But it's just pretty. Doesn't bloom. It just does this. But I'll show you how to design with this in a second. This is another one I have quite a bit of. This is a Cuba, like Aruba, only it's a Cuba. It's an evergreen shrub. I've got some of these. This one's hardy enough to grow underneath my juniper trees. Junipers poison the ground underneath them. They're always throwing litter. So it's really difficult to get things to grow underneath these big evergreen, like an alligator or shaggy bark juniper. It's very difficult, but I've got this magnificent, huge juniper. I've limbed it up and I've planted a garden underneath it with some statues, some underlighting. It's pretty. You'd swear you're at the Ritz or something going, whoa, welcome. We're glad you're staying here. Your gardens can feel that way. And so I planted this underneath that to see if it would live. And it has thrived, unbelievably thrived. It's been about 5 or 7 years. It's now up to about this tall, kind of this nice, pretty shape to it. And it has gone through a sub-zero winter with me, which is brutal. Every once in a while, we get these really cold winters. It wasn't this winter. It was cold, but it wasn't that bitter cold. Freeze everything dead cold. This thing comes through and just looks like this all the time. It does put a little flower. You're seeing last year's flower on there like this, but you're not planting it for this little white flower. You're planting it for this foliage. A Cuba, like Aruba. I feel like I want some beach time. I didn't get to go to the beach last year. Yeah.
So everything that you've shown us so far, deer.
Oh, no. Sorry. Okay, so for you folks online, didn't forget you. I'll repeat them, promise. Over here too. Sometimes you can't hear, didn't carry. So I'm going to send you the deer and rabbit resistive list. This class does not relate to that at all. I just went with new, funky, different, unusual flowers. So now you need to cross-reference to, was that on my list? And I don't know if they are or aren't. I'll point the ones out I obviously know are bulletproof. And azaleas, they generally leave alone. Rhododendrons, they will not eat, for sure. Deer, javelina, elk even, will not eat. Antelope, won't bother. Javelina, don't bother. These two I don't know, so I won't tease you. Oh, I was going to show you how to design with these. Let me show you. Take a dark color, take a light color. All of a sudden, you've got pretty. It looks like you're a florist because they just are companion plants. They look good because the colors and the textures are playing off of each other. For me, whenever I'm matching colors, I had a great example of this. Like here. So everyone wants my opinion because I'm the garden guy. I've got a radio show. I do a garden column. But I'm a man. God only gave me 7 crayons. I don't match colors that well, but I know how to read nature because I love nature. And if you're going, I love pink. What goes to pink? I'm going, I'll find a pink flower that's a different color. Go, light pink apple blossoms. Looks like yellow stamens. Yellows will go. And I just start matching nature. And that's my cheater. That's my cheater way to tell you what goes together color-wise. Then I'm looking for shade, shrub, how much wind do you get, where do you live, how much clay, those kinds of things. And then we go deep into, do the gophers eat it, do pack rats, do javelina, and I kind of process that way. So that's a good way to kind of cross over. This would even go. This just goes, that's a garden. That's a container garden right there. Columbine, heuchera, and golden bloodgrass. Columbine actually grows wild here. You'll see them up in the higher elevations, up in the forest, but it's always yellow. Yellow's our Arizona. There's an Arizona yellow columbine. Yellow's good, but there's so many more exciting colors, bicolors even. They're cross colors. This is a new variety. It's pink with a white center with that yellow stamens. So you're seeing these same classic columbine flower. All of them have this kind of flower, but the color patterns change. They're all going to take quite a bit of sun, but they seem to bloom longer and they have some protection in the shade. They just keep that blossom so much longer. And animals have been programmed, don't eat columbine. So deer, this is one you want to go with. Don't go with this one, deer. Just deer won't eat this one. Get it? Yeah, there we go. Just having fun at this point. I'm tired. I don't know. I'm going to go to the lake tomorrow, so that'll help. Okay, so this one I was very excited about, and this one, shade, and we get one more. That's not really shade, but it is shade. Anyone know what this is? Clematis, very, very good. Now, most folks know the white one, the Jackmanii. There's this classic white clematis colored flower to it. They all have the same vines. As this has grown just in the last couple of weeks, maybe the last few days, this much. It'll be here in no time. But it's starting to bud up very heavily, and we're starting to introduce more. This is a double blue flower. Super unusual for clematis. But I find that all clematis bloom longer, better, in part sun. So in fact, the ideal place to plant clematis, plant it where the roots are in the shade and the foliage can grow up into the sun. That's like the magic place for all clematis. They'll do really, really well and bloom a long time for you. That's the place to be. You still got my microphone on? So you see you running back and forth.
Yeah, well, you were a little echoey.
Oh. Really? Yeah. Oh, gotcha. That's where you folks online, it's better to be our VIP customers, virtual, in person. They get favored status, and they don't have that reverb, but we're glad you tuned in. This one came off the truck yesterday. Super unusual. This is bleeding heart. Now, most bleeding hearts, I don't know if this is where it pays to be behind that screen. You can actually see the flower right there. It's got a heart. The flower dangles from this stem that looks like a heart. It has a little stamen that looks like it's bleeding. That's the name, bleeding heart. Almost always they're red. This one you're only going to find at Waters Garden Center, and it's got this burgundy. It's a brand new color, something that you just have never seen before. I like this plant not just for the flowers, but the foliage itself looks like a fern. So you get the ferny foliage. The bonus, the flowers are almost like frosting. It's like, oh, extra. Yeah, I would have planted it just for this. So anyway, bleeding heart. What's the name of this color? This is Captain Solo calla lilies. Captain Solo. Wonder if it's Star Wars related. I have no idea. Captain Solo. But it just does this. It'll bloom a long time in the shade. Amazingly long time. This one looks great right by your front door. You don't even have to plant it. Actually, this is a cheater. Lisa frequently doesn't even take them out of the bucket. She takes them, she'll plant them up several together, just have them there blooming by the front door. When they're done blooming, sometimes they make it in the garden. Sometimes she throws them away. It hurts me, but she just goes, I'm done. I've enjoyed it. She uses them like a floral arrangement by the front door as much as she does a plant that's in for the gardens, especially by the front door or containers. Very pretty when you walk through. It's almost jungle-like. Okay, that is the shade. Got one more shade thing. Then we move to full sun. This is digitalis, or a foxglove is the common name. Very good perennial for here. It just has a really long bloom time. This will keep extending, and you can just see it's got another 30 or 40 flowers, and it will keep extending and keep blooming for many, 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 many weeks. So it just loves this great foliage. It says it takes full sun. When you check Google, it says sun. That's why you want to check your local gardeners. This one's going to do better for you at this altitude in the shade. It's going to bloom longer, stronger. And I do notice that hummingbirds love that shape of that flower. They just love They'll go buzz every single flower and then fly off in a daze. I don't know. Just foxglove, shade. That's the last one I got for you. Now we'll shift to sun kind of stuff. We'll go to the ultimate sun. This is, you're starting to see this bloom around town. This is a broom, it's like sweeping broom. This is broom. It's got a really sweet smell. This one's Scotch broom. Now there's Spanish broom, which is very big, gets easily 8-10 feet tall. It kind of flames out in life. It grows really fast, looks great for 10 years, and then it just separates, gets this dead center, it loses its vitality. Sometimes those bigger plants, you need to replant them. This is hard for you gardeners. Some of you think I have to keep this, it's like a puppy dog or something. I must keep it alive, even though it's hacking up fur balls in my garden. Some of them deserve a bumper and a chain, and they need to be pulled. Russian sage is that way. This is that purple spiky flower. It gets mangy. It starts running everywhere, seeding everywhere. It needs to be restarted sometimes. And about every 7 to 10 years seems to be about where it's at. Roses. Roses are not meant to live forever. They're meant to live for about 7-10 years. Then they get real woody. They stop blooming. The flowers get smaller. They just lose their vitality. So don't be afraid. I'm giving you permission. If it looks ugly in your yard, we live in America, the greatest country that's ever lived. For $20, you get another one. So just replace it. This is a broom, real sweet smelling yellow flower. Comes in red, pink, an apple blossom, kind of a peachy color, and then yellow, of course. The great thing about Scotch, it's longer lived and it's shorter. This one will get up to about like this, about hip high or so, and beautifully round, just perfectly shaped. And when it's done blooming, you've got this, it's almost like a pencil plant. It's got real green stems with tiny, tiny leaves, which make it super efficient on its water use. So this would be considered drought hardy or xeriscape kind of landscapes. We put this in the desert Southwest, kind of mountain desert section because it's so tough. Companions for this, yuccas, Spanish daggers, the gray leaf cotoneasters that grows wild around here. That's what this thing likes to grow with. But isn't that pretty? Just beautiful. This is another one that goes with that. It's just starting to show color. Mine is still kind of green at home. It's budded, but it's not quite opened yet. But another week, it'll start having dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of these pink flowers about that big, with the size of silver dollars. And it's evergreen. Animals will not eat this. Javelina, deer, rabbits, they don't bother this particular rose bush. So not cliff rose, desert rose. What did I say this was again? Rock rose. Rock rose. So it gets up maybe that tall. Beautiful green mound about this big around. Gets wider than it does tall. And it's just a nice evergreen, tough. Get it up to size, and you probably never have to water it again. It's that tough. Okay. Truly a native. That's the toughest of the tough. Now, for you folks from the south and the east, you know what that is? Snowball bush, viburnum. It's classic for that Midwest to East Coast. But there are some surprising, beautiful shrubs, even in Prescott Valley in that wind. There's some big specimens that are just beautiful. And you can count on it every spring to have these pom-pom size or snowball size flowers. Viburnum as a family, it's very tough. It's a very robust type with a lot of vigor and very drought hardy. But it will take that full sun, takes the wind, and I have no idea if animals eat it. Sorry. So, but try it. Isn't that pretty? Does it smell? Does not smell. Sorry about that. Can you smell that online? Just try. Try smelling that. Go ahead. Take a moment. Okay. Those are the more the shrubby things. That the levels here. As you step down to the more perennial things, that's going to be these. Brought a couple here. These are three that I grow a lot of. I use this one. This is society garlic. It's actually related to the garlic family. When you rub it, it has a garlic smell. And so animals aren't going to bother this. They don't like herbs. Animals, javelina, they don't like rosemary, lavender. They don't like garlics, thyme, oregano. So I'll use many of my herbs to hide the fragrance or mask my pansies, violas, things they do eat. And I find it works pretty well. So I'm using this in the center and then having my other things that they might be attracted to kind of hide them. Now, with that being said, Lisa will not allow me to have this by the front door because your house will smell like garlic. So it's got to be a little bit further out, but it's just a pretty plant. I actually have this planted. This is we're kind of a whimsical family. I've got a Easter Island tiki man head thing. I've got a pot that's this tall, looks like a tiki, big long nose, and I put this at the top. It looks like his hair. It's fun. It's just fun. And it's been there for several years. And it's in bloom right now. Comes in green or variegated. I brought the variegated just because this is a new flower class. This is to see variegation of the foliage, super unusual. Usually it's a dark green color to it. The foliage, and then this stalk comes up with this bright pink flower. But we've got both down there. So society garlic. This one is scabiosa or pincushion flower because the flowers look like a pincushion. This is a butterfly magnet. They cannot resist land. If you have this in the yard, it's in bloom, you will have painted ladies, swallowtails, monarchs. They're going to love this just because they can't. I don't know why it is. They just love the taste. So it does have a flower. It's got all these different pockets for the sugars for them to feed off of. I think that's the reason why. It just tastes good. And then phlox, creeping phlox. Normally this comes in a dark pink. It's very unusual to see this striped or variegated petal. So the foliage is the same on all creeping phlox, but since this is a class of new things, you ain't seen this before. And it's only available at Waters Garden Center, guaranteed. Great perennial. Comes back year after year. And I'm pretty sure that deer and rabbits don't bother this. So it's pretty robust. This is as tall as it gets. And then this thing will turn into this great big spreading perennial flower with a very long bloom cycle. Okay, pincushion flower, creeping phlox. I use a lot of these. This I have in blue, this meadow sage. Anytime you hear the word sage, salvia, you know you got a good plant because it's from the herb family. So when you rub the foliage, it smells like sage, which means animals aren't going to bother it. Animals don't like to bother things that smell. So generally you're going to find they leave most of your herbs alone. All of them except for maybe basil, sometimes cilantro, but all the others, they don't bother, including this one. Now, this is a wildflower. I like planting these out in my gardens in threes, kind of a triangular shape. They turn into this great big mat of just pretty color. The unusual thing about this, you never see white. Sages almost always come in blues and purples. That's the standard color for them. And so all the ones I have in my backyard are blues and purples. And they've spread, they've reseeded, they're coming up in other areas, which is kind of what wildflowers, it's what you want. It's very unusual to see white. There you go. This one's carnation. Carnations, pinks, and dianthus. Dianthus, pinks, and carnations. They're all the same family. They're all cousins. Same family of plants. And so you'll see most of them have this blue foliage. The perennial ones, the more annual varieties are more green. They bloom a little bit. The flower's a little smaller, but more of them. But if you're going to plant one, plant a perennial. Plant it once, be done. Just comes back every year. This turns into this beautiful green or blue foliage, just matted blue evergreen perennial. And it does this a long time. I mean, like over and over and over. And if you deadhead them, pinch off the spent flowers, it'll just instantly set more flowers for you. It's a great little perennial here. And I've got rabbit and javelina problems. Those are my nemesis in my gardens, javelina, and big old rabbit in my front yard last night, mocking me, sticking his tongue out. He stuck his ears up at me, saying I'm going to eat whatever I want out here. But he doesn't eat this. So because I put things out there, bunnies don't eat carnations. Comes in reds, whites, pinks, quite a few colors. But mainly I love the foliage. And the flowers are kind of a bonus again. Looks really good against that driveway, the walkway from the driveway coming up to the front door, just on the edges of that, just to kind of mounds out, makes like you're walking through a garden because it just mounds up and it just feels good coming through that to the front door. Where are we at? Here's some annuals. Now, annuals and perennials. Everyone gets confused. Now I'm talking to gardeners. You want to know the latest, greatest flowers. That's why you're here. That says something about you. So that's kind of freaky weird. I only want to know the new stuff. Most folks come in and I want the same old geranium I've always had. Where are they? This is not you. And so here we've got annuals. They're like rock stars. They're stunning for a year. And then they die out in the winter. That's an annual. Perennials and permanent, kind of come back year after year. That's a perennial. These guys are annuals. This is Night Skies Petunia. And it looks like the flowers you've just bred where they've got this speckled white, super unusual petunia. Your grandparents had red, pink, and white. That was it. They grow up and flop over. And then they try to cut them back, fertilize them, try to get them to go again. Mounding petunia. This is a trailing variety. It doesn't grow up and fall over. It just trails. This tendril will be this long by the end of the season. And so these we grow into hanging baskets, the front edge of pots, and let it trail over the edge, or a raised bed, have it trail over the edge. Beautiful that way, but super, super unusual. This was introduced last year. Now we've grown even more of them because it was so popular, but Night Skies Petunia. This is African daisy, or osteospermum. African daisy is way easier, okay? So it's these plants, super fluorescent colors, just so striking to see that two-toned typical color. And white, this is as unusual a white as you can see. And the back of the flower, let's see if I can show you that. Back of the flower is purple. Can you see that online? Can you see that? And then the front is white like that. So just very unusual. There you go. It's for you. You can share it with him if you want. Doesn't look like he's as interested, but it's all yours. There you go. But lots and lots. This is mainly a spring and fall plant. So you'll plant it. It'll bloom like this. And if you deadhead this, literally there's hundreds of more buds underneath this. It seems to take a break in the summer. Doesn't like the heat as much. And then it'll come back and be in full bloom again all fall till about Thanksgiving or so, somewhere in there, just after Halloween. So great little spring and fall kind of plant. I noticed my petunias. These will live for me till about first part of December or so, even in containers. And then it finally gets so cold, it goes, yeah, I'm out. I have a few calipercoas. That's the smaller one, that million bells petunias. I'll have some of those come back every once in a while, but truly we sell them as an annual. Just count on them 1 year. If you get a second year out of them, well, that just means you're a really good gardener. You should be proud of yourself. And those are the plants of sun. So bright, 6 hours, hot, add some wind, take a blow dryer to them. They like the sun. How do you keep them blooming? If it puts a flower on, a flower or fruit, it's a heavy feeder. I mean, these guys, these are long distance runners that just love bloom, 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 and they quickly run out of their soil and their food. So what you'll find, you have to replenish the food. You have to encourage them with fertilizer more often than you would, let's say, a tree or a shrub. And so this is especially the hanging baskets. So we grow, I mean, in the winter, it's kind of fun. In the winter, we sit there and look at catalogs. And go, ooh, we've never grown that. Oh, that looks good. Oh, we just kind of look what we're going to grow, get the seed or the plugs or the cuttings. We start plugging them, and then we bring them in the spring. So we have this image in our head, what it's going to look like, the garden center. And now this time of year, it actually comes together. It's kind of exciting. But to look at seed catalogs like this is fun. They come pre-mixed. They're all companion plants. But if you don't fertilize this, probably at least every couple of weeks or so, this will flame out, and you'll have a few flowers on the very tips, and it'll just be this great big green plant, hanging basket with very few flowers. We created this food, Flower Power. I created this food, Flower Power, years and years ago. It's a water soluble. It's got a scoop in there. You add it to your watering can. If you use this a couple times a month, this will look like this all year with long tendrils that'll flow down to here. So we're growing the baskets that hang up around the courthouse, downtown Prescott. So we're planning on putting those together, and we'll fertilize them with these just to keep them so you get those. These are great big baskets, not little guys. We'll just juice them so that they have these long tendrils, and by the end of the season, September, October, they'll have long arms on them, like 3 feet long. Everyone goes, ooh and ah. You can do that yourself. It comes down to the food. Now, if you'll let me, I'm going to hang this back up. Let me climb on my soapbox for just a moment, because I am an anti-Miracle-Gro person. I just am. For the love of gardening, stop using that garbage. It does not help you. It is hindering you. If you use Miracle-Gro, you heard me. Get rid of that Miracle-Gro. I'll probably get a cease and desist order here because it's online. So take that down. It's a salt-based fertilizer. You add that kind of mineral fertilizer with our mineral water, you're going to clog up your pores, your soils. You'll see this white caked up buildup at the bottom of your containers that also builds up in the soil and affects the blooms. And it really does not grow tomatoes the size of your head. That's all marketing. It's not good fertilizer for the mountains of Arizona. So just stop. Trust me. This is a competitor to that, and it does not use minerals. It's not using, you're not going to see this salt-based buildup stuff. So you get a better uptake, better blooms, better use, more efficient flower use with this. So probably a container would be a season's worth. But trust me, I got tired of people using Miracle-Gro in my containers. They come back 2 months later and go, why is it all green? You keep hearing Miracle-Gro, Miracle-Gro, Miracle-Gro. I'm going, I got to do something. And so we stopped selling all Miracle-Gro, which is really hard. As a retailer, that's like stack it high, watch it fly, and you just cash in the money because people are programmed to buy it. But to your friends, you're my friends, stop using that stuff. You heard me. The Flower Power is better. You only find it here at Waters Garden Center. There you go. That's how you keep them blooming. For me, another little tricks that I've learned over the years. Flowers, if they get dry, they'll shed their flowers. Their bloom cycle is much shorter. If you keep that consistent watering, they'll bloom much, much longer. I mean, triple the length of time flowers will stay on that particular plant. So every time I plant flowers, I sprinkle some of this in that top layer. So my containers, I'll fill it up with soil. That top layer where the roots are going to be, I'll sprinkle Aqua Boost crystals. These are polymers, so they hold water. These will hold 200 times their weight in water. So it levels out how the soil dries at the heat of the day as opposed to the morning. So I sprinkle some of that in there, and it just levels out that watering cycle. We've also infused these crystals with mycorrhizal fungi. These are the beneficial, these are fungi that attach themselves to the roots of the plants so they can have longer roots. So now you got a product that encourages longer roots and keeps the moisture around that root area. Really important for containers, anything that's in a pot, basically, especially hanging, trailing kind of baskets. Raised beds where you're trailing over the edge. This will really take the edge off. I use this underneath my tomatoes because tomatoes, if you get this dry to wet, you'll get this cracking on the skin, a real thick, tough skin on your tomatoes, which I don't want a tomato. I want it to melt in my mouth, skin and all right there. This kind of takes that edge off. So it really makes a difference. Again, this is a lot, but one container usually will last you for a whole year, whole season. So anyway, here's a little side note. I thought, I'm really going to help my customers. I started putting this in all of our hanging baskets. And so, but it looks like gelatin. Looks like it swells up. It holds the moisture. So I had all these customers bringing the hanging baskets back going, they've got snails in them. There's something wrong with that. I'm not buying that. I want to return this. So I had to actually take this out of our hanging basket soil mix. You can add it yourself so you know what you're getting, but I had too many non-gardeners that don't know what polymers are. And so that's kind of the mistakes you make as a grower over the years. Bugs, you are going to see some aphids. They started to show up this week. This weekend, late this week and early next week is going to get cool. That is the perfect environment for aphids and thrip. They're gonna like quadruple in quantity like overnight. But this time next week, there'll be aphids everywhere. I predict. I don't want that, but I predict it because I've just seen it happen too many times. For me and my flowers, triple action is the best bug killer, bug control. I found it, and it's organic. So it's safe for your hummingbirds, ladybugs, your pets. It's just much far safer. For your vegetables, you can spray up to the day of harvest and still eat the broccoli, cauliflower, tomatoes, whatever. So this is my first line defense on all things bugs. It doesn't work very well on big things, grasshoppers, blister beetles, great big caterpillars. Doesn't work very well. I've got different things for that. But this spring season, most flowers are going to have smaller insects. I do have one nemesis. I love growing flowers. So my petunias and geraniums, they get what's called a bud worm. It's a little tiny, it's a cute little caterpillar, about that big. And it loves to eat nothing but flowers, only flowers. It's insidious, doggone thing. It'll actually take on the color, whatever flower it's eating. It's not right, turns purple, turns yellow, turns green, and so you'll get this beautiful green plant, not a flower on it. If you look closely, you'll see these little caterpillars. If you see that, come see us. Don't use this, it doesn't work. I've got another product down there called BT, B as in boy, T as in Tom. It's like magic, it's organic, and it obliterates all caterpillars. So just watch, some years they're worse than others. Just know, if your plants, usually in June, July, we're in the monsoons hit. About then, you've got these beautiful green flowers and no flowers. Come talk to me. We'll get those critters, budworms, taken care of. So that's just some things I've seen in my own gardens over the years. With that, I'll take questions. We'll start with those folks online. You can type it in right down below. And while you're online, if you could do me a favor, we're a small company. I got 6 family members that work here. We really benefit when you like or subscribe or even make a comment. All of a sudden, Facebook, Google, and those folks, they automatically say, wow, they must be important. People are asking them stuff. Just ask a question. Say hello. It doesn't matter. Type in where you're from. We'd love to hear that too. But questions, anything on flowers? Yes?
Hanging baskets in sun or shade?
So most hanging baskets, are they in sun or shade? Most of them that we have are sun. We do grow some impatiens, coleus, a potato vine that are shade. So we've got both. We try to have a mix. Most folks have more exposure to sun because they're hanging those out towards the outer edge of the patio. They're going to get sun at that point. So we try to accommodate that as such. But not everyone. I've got some that are on my back patio. They're complete shade. So there you look at your impatiens, begonias, coleus. Those things they like the shade. You take a coleus, this big, and it will turn into like this one season. They're impressive. So good question. Good question. Yes, what else? Good class. I will hang out as long as you want. I'll move the chair out of the way. You can look at the flowers as much as you want. I'll just hang out here in the greenhouse. I'm seeing the finger. Yeah, not that finger. She's saying, hold on, don't close out yet. Someone has a question. What?
Now that you said, tell us
Oh,
So the first question is from Dawn. She'd like to know how and when do you trim a lupin?
gotcha. Lupin, good. Gotcha. So lupin, when do you trim lupin? This is probably most perennials. Annuals are going to die out and you just throw them away. If you're doing containers, try to get some fresh soil in there because those old roots are just there and the soil loses its vitality. So you need to add some fresh potting soil. Lupins are a true perennial, usually planted out in the gardens. So wildflower, it's a wildflower. We put it in our seed mixes. You can also buy it as a plant. Usually that's going to die back and you cut your perennials back in the winter. November, December, January, February, somewhere in there. And I just use a lawnmower. Sure, I'm done like that, fast. Or hedgers. Hedge right on the ground, shunk, I'm done. Trim them back to the ground. You'll actually forget where they were at. Lupins, also an interesting fact, if you deadhead that flower, they've been in bloom for like a month or more. If you take that spent flower off, many times they'll send up another flower on you. Many of these perennials, if you deadhead or pinch the old flowers, they'll set new flowers and you'll get a repeat bloom. Or let's say like echinacea, kind of like roses, they'll flush a big flush of flowers. Then they'll take a rest. If you deadhead them, they'll come back and do another flush of flowers. They'll just pulsate flowers to the growing season. So encourage you to deadhead those. Another one, my seed producers in the winter, usually about August. My gaillardias, echinaceas, poppies, things that form a seed. I love my birds. And I'll let those plants go to seed late summer, early fall, and I'll keep those flowers up, exposed on my perennials. Even though the foliage looks dead, I'll keep that seed flower, and that's a food source. Many of my smaller wintering over birds. So little sparrows and stuff, finches will be all over that, get in the seed, and then they'll come back up. And then they'll sometimes spread the plants around in my garden. So I kind of balance that out, let my birds have some, but they're deadheaded every other time. I want a continual bloom until I feel generous to my birds. Late summer, early fall. Sound good? Thanks for being here, folks. Thanks for supporting Waters Garden Center. Yes, I'll let you clap. Clap online, too. You know where the button is. Thanks, you all.
That's amazing.
Like you're a regular.
I just finished